Since 2015, with the American NGO Vital Voices, I've had the honor of supporting business women from all over the world as a marketing and sales coach, an enriching experience that has taught me that everything in life has a purpose and that there is no cause that is not worth fighting for. These remarkable women work tirelessly for a noble mission to leave this world a little better. These are their inspiring stories. Today, Ronna Luna, CEO of the Greenhouse Studio in Fiji. With breathtaking seascapes, Fiji is an archipelago with more than 300 islands in the South Pacific Ocean. Only 10% of the country is land. Fiji is the hub of the South Pacific and is located northeast of New Zealand. Its official languages are Ikigai, which is Fijian, Hindi, and English. And its 900,000 inhabitants are well known for their bula spirit and contagious friendliness. Well, today I have a very special guest from Fiji with a time difference of 17 hours. I have the pleasure of introduce my friend Maria Ronna Luna Pastorizo Sekiguchi.
Hello, Bulavinaka! How are
Wonderful.
you, David?
Thank you so much, Ronna, for being here. Thank you so much.
Yes, I'm so happy to be here.
Wonderful. Well, Ronna, your company is the Greenhouse Studio, which is basically an agency dedicated to help companies in communication and different things, right? Why did you start your company in the first place? I mean, why having an agency to help companies to communicate better?
Well, I remember being in my second trimester and, almost giving birth to my son, Maui, when I took on this role as a general manager in an advertising agency before I started my business. And then before I knew it, he was 2 years old. I mean, the advertising and marketing, it's such a demanding sector. And especially in the when working with commercial industries. And I thought, wow, I barely saw my family, slept in the office and felt like I was living to work. And I thought to myself, this has got to change. I basically visualized, I could live my life of my own design. And I thought I could have a studio that is small, mobile, flexible, and it has a style of working where personal and work lives are more in a natural state of flow, where there's better work-life integration. And I thought, I'd want to use my skills and my talents and my knowledge to inspire change and help out in our communities. I thought, I wanted a place, a socially conscious business that would adhere to the principles of the triple bottom line, which is, people, planet, and profit. And so the Greenhouse Studio was then formalized in March 2014. I was the solo Fiji fempreneur. But then within 6 months, I hired my first employee. It just grew so quickly. So 7 years, we have 9 full-time staff, and we're growing further and hiring more. So that's why I started the Greenhouse Studio.
That's fantastic. And what it means, the name of the company, the Greenhouse Studio, because it has a, symbolism kind of, right?
Yes. And it's funny that people always, at the beginning when they don't know us, they're like, do you sell plants? Well, really, if you think about it, that's the first question, because greenhouses are places where plants are nurtured to grow, and even those plants that do not normally survive outside of that environment, right? So at the beginning, when I was thinking of naming my business, I thought how, this name, this word marries my philosophy and even my husband's philosophy of, always being eco-conscious, especially being from Fiji, where we are at the forefront of the effects of climate change, and the name itself, it connotes a safe creative space where ideas could grow. And that's our tagline, where ideas could grow, where creativity is at the center, where collaboration is key to finding innovative solutions. And in fact, this is our mission for Greenhouse, to be the leading creative hub in the Pacific where people can converge to collaborate and solve the region's biggest problems and challenges.
Yeah, and you have a quite challenging mission, which is inspire change, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't like to change as human beings. I mean, we prefer the status quo and just maintain things as they are. How do you inspire people to change? Because I think that's one of the most challenging things. I want to know the magical formula for that.
Okay. Well, David, I think just a bit of a backstory. I think because I've always been quite different as a child, I think I was primed for change. When I was 10, my family flew to Nauru, which is also in the Pacific, but in Central Pacific, a place so small that you could drive around in your car for 30 minutes and you're right back to where you started. But, even from that young age, change was presented to me, and I was shown that it could bring a lot of good things. And so I being that type of person, I think that made me quite different and realized that, yeah, I mean, I could inspire change in other people because I know what it could be like on the other side. So I love this quote from the Indian author and political activist Arundhati Roy. I don't know if you heard of her, but she wrote that book. It's an award-winning book, The God of Small Things. So I read that many, many years ago. So she says, either way, change will come. It could be bloody or it could be beautiful. It really depends on us. So how do we inspire change? Through storytelling, David. Show people what could be. Storytelling is, as we learn in Vital Voices, I remember, Aaron telling us that, yeah, we take people with us when we tell stories. We take them from one place to another. There is a sense of transportation. And inspiring change is very similar to that. We simply take them from one place to another so they could see that these are the benefits of what could be. But you just have to go through that process of change. So yes, so in short terms, it would be through storytelling.
And I think that's one of the most wonderful things that so many organizations can discover. And actually, I think that has been your mantra for so many years. And one of the things, when I remember when we met, is that you have a very specific type of client that you want to work with. And to be honest, I was happily surprised because lots of companies just take any customer that comes in because we need to sell somehow, and we do not take into consideration that we may select or just define which type of customer we would like to work with. And in your case, I remember we were talking that you especially are concentrated or trying to work with organizations that have meaningful communication, that have an impact in the world, which clearly defines the type of company and customers you want to attract. And for so many companies that are just listening to us, they might consider, but that's a very narrow kind of approach to the market. How do you identify those companies, and is it enough just to work with those type of companies? Is it, a real difference that they can perceive?
Yes, I mean, David, we from when we started, we said, well, I said, because I was the only person when the Greenhouse Studio started, was that this business is going to be a socially conscious business. And, I want to spend my time really inspiring change in communities and people. And the only way we're going to do that is to work with these types of agencies and also companies, even small businesses or consultants who are doing these types of work or projects. So how do we identify them? Well, two ways. First, we seek them. um, in Fiji, we are quite lucky, I would say, or blessed that we have a lot of organizations that are based here. The regional HQs or headquarters are based here. I think because Fiji is quite a hub in the Pacific, so we have a lot of these organizations like the UN, UNICEF, UN Women, or even the Secretariat of the Pacific Community. So many of these organizations are based here, and so because Fiji is quite small, we are able to network. And when we say, that idea about everyone is within 6 degrees of knowing each other, in Fiji, it's smaller. It's within 3 degrees. So within our networks, we are able to identify key people in these different organizations and businesses and are able to reach out and get to know them through events, through different ways, through work that we're already doing. So the first way is we seek them, and the second way of identifying them is, well, we get recommended by our existing clients. And in fact, that has been what has really grown our business, is through recommendation after recommendation, from different clients who most of the time work together because of the type of work that they do. So for example, personally, I'm also um, very involved in the gender equality space or network, because I am the president of Graduate Women Fiji. And beforehand, I have been a part of these organizations since 2007. And so, I had grown my network in the gender equality space from then. And so we had started working with a lot of organizations within this space, like UN Women, and then eventually Pacific Women, then Fiji Women's Fund. It's just been that follow-on effect from when we started 7 years ago. Yeah, so that's how we identify our prospects.
And I think, Rana, that when you define just a way to work with, it's so attractive or so meaningful for some organizations, because a lot of companies just want to be like everything for everyone. And when you really define who you want to serve, and that you are specialized on something that is so meaningful, would you say that it may become your core difference? Because
Indeed.
there are a lot of companies.
Yes, it is in fact one of our core differences. Because and when we speak to our companies, we say, from when we started 7 years ago, we have sought to work on these types of projects because we're passionate about doing this type of work. So when you work with us, not only have we specialized on Asian materials and knowledge materials and all kinds of materials for organizations in the gender equality space, in the climate action network, for children's rights, human rights, financial education, health and wellness, education, but also because we are really passionate about being part of that project. So you work with people who really care about what it is that you're doing. So yes, it is one of our main core difference, I would say.
And is your team involved with that? Because one of the greatest challenges, I think, is just to get our people think a similar way and just try to absorb that culture. What
Yes.
kind of culture do you have in your organization, and how have you been able just to build that culture around that? Because when you started, of course, it was your kind of thinking, but how can you just get people in to follow your
Yeah.
philosophy?
Well, we always say 3 C's. Our culture is based on the 3 C's of care, creativity, and collaboration. Yeah. And so when we hire somebody, we've created an onboarding set of slides wherein I myself, as the founder, take them through the history of Greenhouse, how we started, and what the philosophy is, and what we're doing, and we keep talking about examples of, how can we show care, how can we make sure creativity is at the center, how can we ensure that we are collaborating internally and also externally, to keep working on these types of projects. And so it's in the everyday environment for everybody, that they are reminded that this is what we stand for, this is what our culture is about, these are our values, and this is why we do the way we do things at Greenhouse. So that's how, we have really grown and established, the culture for Greenhouse.
So it's just letting the people know that this is the way we think and this is how we expect you to behave in that environment. And I can tell that what you do is your passion. Absolutely. You really enjoy and love what you do. Uh, how can we find purpose in what we do? Because I think that that's something that it's somehow rare. Most of the people are just trying to earn a living and do something, but not really
Yeah.
following that passion and having a meaningful work. In your experience, Rana, how do we find that purpose in our day-to-day job?
I love this question, David. And in fact, I had been, I think, thinking about purpose, even before I started, the company. I think I've always been a thinking individual. Have you heard of the 5 blue zones, the 5 communities in the world where people live the longest and the healthiest? Yeah, have you heard of it?
There's something about it, but not much really.
Okay, so there are 5 communities. National Geographic actually had
Okay.
done this research, and more people had become involved later. But there are 5 communities that demonstrate living the longest, healthiest, and happiest. One is in Okinawa, Japan, and in different places. One is in Italy, I think Sardinia, Costa Rica, a place in Costa Rica, a place in Greece, and even one specific community in California. It's really interesting. I mean, after the interview, if you have time, but one of the common factors that they have found that these people have in these communities is that they live with a strong sense of purpose.
Mhm.
Yeah, in fact, they found, and I know this because I just presented this to one of my motivational talks before the lockdown in Suva started, at UNDP. But do you know that knowing your sense of purpose and living by it is worth up to 7 years of extra life expectancy? That's amazing. So anyway, what I was before, I thought identifying your purpose was just simply finding your passion and living it. But I found this idea from Japan, which I thought was really, really wise and so interesting. It's called Ikigai. So Ikigai in Japan means your reason for being, your reason to get up in the morning, really, your strong sense of purpose, yeah? Of having that pure joy, of doing something you love with a sense of meaning. But what I love about this concept is that it actually has a guideline for you to find your Ikigai. And what's so good about these guidelines is that it's also quite practical. I think in the kind of Western concept, living your purpose is simply living by doing what you love as your passion. But Ikigai is an intersection of 4 different things. It's first, finding out what you love, which is your passion. Then second, finding what you're good at. What were you, I think one of the best questions to ask here is, what are you genetically encoded for? What skills or talents come naturally to you? And then second, what can you get paid for? You know, um, are you already making good living in this line of work? What would you be doing if you're not in your current job? What can you get paid for? And lastly, what does the world need? What can you do or offer that would bring meaning to others? All these four main things, the sweet spot is in the middle. And that sweet spot is your ikigai, your strong sense of purpose, of living your life to the fullest.
But isn't it sometimes something that is kind of wishful thinking? I mean, in some of our countries, of course, you would love to do something that you enjoy and finding that intersection, but it really has to just, has to be feasible. I mean, in terms of your own country and your own situation. And I think that having that inner purpose just at least give the work, the job, a sense, a meaning, right? It is
Mm.
different.
I I really don't think it's wishful thinking, David. I mean, that's why I like the concept ikigai, because like it's quite practical. I mean, not only should you be living with what you're passionate about, but you should find out what are you good at that you can get paid for. So the idea is that it can evolve, that you can work towards being able to live your life doing what you love. You
Okay.
know, so because a lot of people think, oh, just because I love that
Let's
and
find
I'll
the
just
way.
do that, yeah, you just do it now, right? But you also need to understand that life has demand, so you need to be able, and it can be small steps leading you up to that direction. So but the only way you're able to do that is you need to find out what can you get paid for now. Yeah. And
Okay.
how what are you really good at, like as a person, you know, because like we're given certain gifts and talents right from when we're born. And then how can you merge all of that so that you can do, you know, you can work and live a life doing what you love. And the extra special thing about this concept is that it also asks you the question, what can you offer the world that can help people?
Yeah.
You know, it's
It's a
just,
different dimension.
yeah, I think it's just a really wonderful way of, you know, doing merging, and you know, that takes away the wishful thinking part,
Yeah.
because answering all these questions will help you create a plan. It will help you see things more clearly, you know.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's up to the person. Most of the time we're just really afraid, you know, to do something, yeah, even
We
if
don't
it's
like
small.
we don't like to think in the future so much.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think.
Yes, it is scary, isn't it? It is truly
Yeah,
scary.
it is. It is.
Growth is scary, change is
Yes.
scary. Yeah. And,
Lana, I would love to talk about Fiji,
mm,
right? Because I don't know much about Fiji, but what I've seen, it's a wonderful country. It's kind of magical, and I always remember you're always kind of smiling, just with joy and happiness. Uh, how's Fiji? I mean, what is the culture? Tell a little bit about that.
you know, David, I came to Fiji in 2004 as an adult, and I felt instantly at home. I think mainly because my personality has always been, you know, very open and warm, and I found the same thing in the Fijian people, you know. So it is definitely part and parcel of the Fiji culture to be kind and warm to others. In fact, there is a Fijian phrase called it's called Velomani. It means to love one another, and have peace with each other, and you know, let's work together. You know, to place, you know, our differences aside so that we can, you know, do the greater good, or do something that can advance, you know, each other. And that is, you know, ingrained and in Fiji culture. That's why they always say, you know, when tourists come here, they always say why Fijian people are so nice. It's just part of, you know, of their culture. and they have embraced me as an adopted child. I mean, it's definitely magical, which is why Fiji is my home now. I found my strong sense of support. My village is what I call it, which
Okay.
are my long life friends and family here, my husband. Yes, so it's definitely part of our
Yes,
culture.
it has something to do with the Bulla spirit because I was checking what is the Bulla spirit?
Yes, it's we say bula
Bulla.
when yeah, it's like our hello. When That's why I said bula vinaka earlier. So
Okay.
bula, it means life, yeah, but it has a deeper meaning to it. When I've spoken, to my friends and everybody here, we know that the bula, when you say bula, you're really wishing someone happiness. You're wishing them good health, and you're wishing them life. Yeah, and so that spirit is definitely also part of our culture. That's why that's the first thing that we say in Fiji.
That's wonderful. Ronna, how can people know more about the Greenhouse Studio, your company, and all the work you do and your team?
Well, you can visit our website, greenhouse.studio, and on all our social media platforms, our handle is Greenhouse Fiji. And so you can follow us on Instagram and see how we're doing. And on our Facebook, Facebook is really big in Fiji. And so we're very active in it as well. And also myself, all my social media handles is Maria Ronna Luna. So you can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook as well.
Well, thank you so much once again for being here with us and sharing your wisdom, your experience from a very different part of the world for us in Latin America. So thank you so much, Maria Rona Luna, for this time. Thank you so much.
Vinaka Vakalevu, David. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you.